Ho, 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 everybody. Well, this is unexpected.
Well, indeed. Yes.
We weren't going to do any more until 6th of January. And then I got a message from Mr. P this morning just saying, should we do a live tonight? And I went, yeah, go on then.
The thing is, we're just such horrible, vacuous people that we can't bear to be out of the limelight for more than a few days. Actually, we love it and all of that nonsense. But I'll take the blame because John's obviously not prepared to. Charlatan. Is that with all the lockdowns and everything yesterday, nobody can do anything tonight. It came at the last minute, so we thought, you know what? Why don't we just do a little New Year's Eve show? And we're only just going to talk nonsense and see how that goes on. This is sort of like a normal Wednesday chat.
Yes,
but on a Thursday.
On a Thursday. I did name it the New Year Eggnog. Do you know what the one thing I couldn't get when I went out?
Eggnog.
I couldn't get any eggnog today. Unbelievable. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to slum it with some Harvey Crystal cream. Cheers.
Well, I've tonight, bearing in mind that I think that the only way to get through the next 6 hours is to drink myself to oblivion, is that I'm drinking coffee.
Well, I'm not.
In my cheeky monkey mug.
I'm actually going to be getting on with some modelling this evening, and I'm just gonna model my way into the new year. First, some housekeeping. Right, I had an Amazon parcel turn up today. Amazon parcel.
Amazon.
Of which I had to prove my age. Which the Amazon driver said, well, you've got to prove you're over 18, which suddenly had me really quite alarmed at what on earth were people sending me that I had to prove.
So what age did you give them this time then?
Boxes like this, and it's like, well, this contains something for over 18s only. I'm like, really? However, I'm indebted to Mr. David Fleming for this wonderful Christmas gift he sent me. And the wonderful Christmas gift he sent me is a bottle of Glenfiddich single whiskey.
Nice.
Oh, Dave, I tell you what, in all seriousness, I'm gonna hang on to this because fingers crossed, scale model world this year, this will be for toasting.
Well, I'm obviously, because I'm co-host on this program, I'm just waiting for the door to knock because there must be one for me as well. We can't have this kind of favoritism from people who watch this program towards one host rather than the other. So I'm sure that there'll be a knock at the. Oh, there it is.
I am also indebted to Mr. Andrew Farmer of this parish, who gifted me this rather splendid Highland Park 12-year-old Viking Honour single malt Scotch whiskey. He bought me a rather nice single malt last Christmas, which I still haven't opened because I was keeping it for this Christmas. But these things you don't waste. You keep these for special occasions. So both gentlemen. And gentlemen, they are. I say thank you very much.
I've realised that given the presents that you've just been sent, mine must be your Scotch mist because I must be just invisible to everybody. Gifts aplenty, except to me. It's literally heartbroken. I just can't.
Also,
I have to say, joking aside, that I'm not sure if I did this last time, but I did have a very large package come through from Sir Andy, a farmer of this parish, who sent me some very nice tomato kits for the upcoming shenanigans that both this channel and my personal occupation are going to deal with next year. And
funny
we will be talking about
a challenge.
We will.
Challenge. I did get rather nicely.
More gifts.
A pair of Bren gun carriers, which will be these will be turned into projects next year. These aren't just errant freebies. These will be turned into projects next year, as will that which has been on my bucket list since I was about 10. So I've never built that. I've always wanted one. I've got one now. That will be built as a project for 2020. 2021 rather. I still haven't got 2020 out, but then 2021, 2020 has one, believe it. And also, which
see, I may as well just give up now.
But you haven't built this one yet, have you?
No, nor have I built the other one either.
I think this, but you've got one of these, haven't you?
No,
you haven't. Oh, okay, fair enough.
Or the other.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I have to say, I didn't realise those had been reissued. Or that they were currently available, to be honest.
Yeah, the FLAC, if you remember, we were looking at that in Antics at the beginning of the year.
Indeed.
20 quid around that mark, yeah.
Which was the sort of the couple of hours that started all of this nonsense off for us, wasn't it? The Antics. Yeah. So we must blame Andy Hills then. For everything
the troublemakers are always called Andys. Also, I did get this rather splendid book on vehicle art of World War II, which is very kind, and also this splendid book on American Eagles, US fighter pilots in the Second World War. And would you believe, rather ironically, I now have 2 copies of Stark Spangled Spitfires. So, anyway,
yes,
I am. Genuinely humbled by this. So thank you. It's really quite nice to kind of have piles of things. I was going to say it's really nice to have piles, and there was going to really nice to have piles. Awkward sentence break there. And I also, I'm trying to think where it's gone though. Oh yes, I also just had a knock on the door about 5 minutes before we were due to go broadcast, and it was a friend of mine who came round and delivered my Christmas presents to me. So I'm like partay here. I'm just going to carry on.
I almost wish I hadn't bothered. I might as well just have sat on the sofa.
Do you know what? For a misanthrope like me, I'm actually doing quite well here.
Yes, indeed. Actually, I think that's reflected the whole year, really, for us, hasn't it? I mean, the generosity that's kind of come our way, really, has been quite extraordinary. The only downside to all of that, of course, is that we are expected to build these things rather
than not a downside.
Rather than just mount them up in the workroom as I have done. And if I can just lift my computer just for a second, I'll give you an idea of what that means. If I turn my computer like that, you can see that there is a pile there of kits. That's my schedule for 2021.
Yeah, but
as it stands.
But the thing is, you say, but the downside is you've got to build them. Have you been to the outside world recently?
Yes, that is very true. And yes, I made the slight mistake of listening to Six Music's news broadcast before we came on which I hadn't bothered.
Let's just not bother going there.
Yes, quite strong. So tonight, Mr. Mock, we came up with the preposterous idea of trying to entertain people for an hour on New Year's Eve, which is, I have no idea why either of us thought that this would be even remotely a sensible idea. I sort of appreciate that it was my fault, really. So, but we have got a few things to discuss, haven't we? That we thought might be entertaining. A couple of new kits, possibility for challenge, I think. And I think we may even go down the road of our favourite project of the year, which I think I suggested, and also our favourite kit of the year, which I don't think we've done yet. We were initially going to do a top 5, but neither of us are sufficiently well prepared to come up with 5 kits that would be even remotely able to put into that bracket. So we're just going to go for 1, I think, and see how that works. Yeah, we haven't got a script. There is no script anywhere near. I haven't printed anything out, which means that this is literally off the cuff. But shall we start with a new kit that was announced, I believe, yesterday, and we'll go for the news from Armour Hobby. Should we try that one?
Ooh, look at that.
Yes, there we go. I'm going to let you talk about this one because you are a little bit more knowledgeable about these things than I am.
Really?
Yes, but following on from their 72nd scale kits, we're getting a 2C in 48. How lovely does that look?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just calling up their website at the moment because we only had time tonight to just kind of like just do a few images off of their website. But yeah, they're doing a Mark 2C, which, as you can see, it does look the business.
Yes.
The first thing that struck me, well, you can see there's actually a tropical filter on that one as well, which is clearly pointing to more variants down the line. But the first thing that struck me was you could fit a Merlin engine in that nose.
Yes.
Which it might sound like a bit of a strange thing to say, but the number of Hurricane kits down the years that have been released, and they're beautifully molded. I'm thinking, Academy, even the Hobby Boss kits are beautifully molded, but they are dreadful replicas. They're just so thin in the nose. This does look to be rather spectacular. We will put up some links to the armor page at the end of this. But
that cockpit looks amazing, doesn't it?
Yep, it is really quite exceptional, and I think pretty much from what we've seen of the renders that Armour have put up on screen is that this is going to be pretty much the all singing, all dancing 2C kit. It's every single variant you could think of the 2C. In terms of weapons fit, accessories like tropical filters. Obviously, from that box art, we see they're doing a night fighter, so you've got the exhaust guards and everything. It's just going to be the one-stop shop Hurricane 2C, really, which is jolly nice. And yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't built any of their 72nd scale Hurricane kits, but I have seen nothing but absolutely glowing reports about how utterly gorgeous they are, and indeed how utterly gorgeous Armour's kits are in general. So
yeah,
I am fully anticipating these are going to be just fabulous. Really, I can't see they're not going to. I can't see they're going to be anything other than. But yeah, if you go on to, we'll put up a link up at the end of the show. But if you follow the link and go and have a look at, the rest of the CAD renders and things for this, I mean they're doing two different types of fillet for under the fuselage. There's all kinds of little variations that they're doing. The wheel wells and everything on here, they're just absolutely sumptuous. Drop tanks. Tropical filter, night fight. It's like I say, it's your one-stop Hurricane 2C in 48 scale, and more importantly, like I say, that nose, you could get a Merlin engine in there. It looks absolutely spot on. It really does.
I have to say that I'm really kind of keen on the idea of this kit because I'm a massive fan of the Hurricane anyway. I know it gets me brickbats, but I do prefer the Hurricane to the Spitfire. I always have. I just like its pugnacious look. It's just got something about it. And we've had pretty much the Mark 1s wrapped up with the Airfix kits. The Airfix kit is beautiful and it goes together really nicely. But the 2C is really pugnacious looking thing. And it looks great with the cannons on. It looks great with the stores under the wings. And I can't help thinking when I saw this kit that there's I had the image of the Matchbox kit in my head because I think that's a 2C as well, isn't it, or a 2? And that low level image of it, and I like the idea of that. Also, the Night Fighter I find really attractive. I can't think off the top of my head the last time I did an all black aircraft. I think it might be the SR-71 Blackbird. So the idea of having this kit come out and being able to do it in black and also be able to play around with maybe the finish a little bit, to sort of see how it would look and the weathering. I was reading somewhere about recently, I think it was on, it might have been on one of my pages actually. Somebody was talking about night black and the way that the black finish that was originally applied to these aircraft just was so rough as a finish that it just weathered almost instantly. It picked everything up, picked dirt up, it picked oil stains up and that. So the possibility there is to create something that's really weathered as well, which I really like. So I'm looking forward to this. I have actually seen some of the Armour Hurricanes, not to build, but to see them in the box, and they are beautiful little kits. So this one, and I know a few of our friends have made them, haven't they? I know Mike Williams, for instance, he's made one, and he really loved it. So they are out there, and they have been built. But to see this in 48 scale. Also, Armour kits aren't known for being overly expensive either.
No.
So I'm assuming that this will be a reasonably priced kit too. So that's an interesting part of this. No, we have nothing to suggest that this is like an imminent release. I think it'll be early into next year. But I think we put caveats on absolutely everything at the moment, don't we? COVID allowing is basically it, isn't it? So that's sort of where we are. Yes,
I certainly am hoping that at least by this time next year, or what will soon be this time this year, is that I will have tucked under my belt an Armour kit of some sort. I would have done a Wingsy kit. I would have got a Dora Wings kit, and in there as well. I just want to get through those artisan manufacturers, but Armour aren't finished, are they?
No, they're very much not finished. And there is another release that I know is just going to be, people are going to lap this up, and that other release is a 72nd scale P51B Mustang. There it is.
P51B/C, depending on where they were manufactured.
Yes. And for a lot of Mustang fans, those two versions are the favorite, aren't they? Because they just look right with that spine. Color schemes were kind of cool on these things as well. The olive drab and neutral gray finishes had quite a lot of additional markings on and looked really weathered. But they also appeared in metal finishes as well and look great. I love this version of this aircraft. I'm a big fan of the Mustang anyway. I really like it as a type, and I've built lots and lots of them over the years. So I can't wait for this to come out. And certainly if our Facebook page and friends' Facebook pages is anything to go by, this thing's going to sell by the million. It's going to be, people are just going to want to sort of kind of lap this up. Also, these are the renders that we've seen. I think this was announced. Was this announced yesterday? Certainly within the last sort of few days. If this kit has got this kind of surface detail on it, I think we're looking at something really, really nice, aren't we? Really impressive. So yeah, that's the new P51B/C, like you say. Which is
I'm just having a look at there are more renders up on the Armour page itself. It is noticeable on here. You can see that they're doing the filleted version.
Yep.
And they're doing the unfilleted version,
which
is nice. But they're also giving you the different styles of breather gills under the nose. So you've got the perforated ones there.
Yeah.
But if you're a fan of Australian Mustangs, you're getting the gill ones as well.
Yes.
Which is pretty much a feature of so many RAAF Mustangs. If anybody has never seen that book, Southern Crosses, which is about Australian Mustangs, it is worth every penny. It is a spectacularly detailed book, utterly brilliant. The other thing I've noticed from just having a quick look at their pages, they're giving you the paper tanks, they're giving you the standard metal tanks, they're giving you bombs. There will also be the choice between the standard hinged hood and the sliding Malcolm hood. There's DF loops, some very nice cockpit detail. Like I say, we just didn't have time today to actually kind of upload these upload these onto the page, and also dropped flaps as well.
Wow,
which
nice.
to me that's a signature feature of the Mustang in 72nd scale. And I think that's where the Airfix D scored over a lot of other kits, because they actually included the flaps as a separate feature. But yeah, I mean, I quite liked the Revell kit when it came out, not 24 years ago now. Yeah, that long ago. But
is that the last time we had this aircraft in 72nd scale?
I think Hobby Boss did one about a decade-ish later, but it's very much one of their easy build kits. So it's good if you just want to.
It's kind of, sorry to talk over you, John. It's kind of extraordinary that this version of the Mustang has been so ill-kitted. When we've had hundreds of P51Ds, we've had so few of these, haven't we?
Off the top of my head, although a lot of people watching would be thinking off with his head, is the first kit of the first kit. Just whiskey envy. The first kit of P51B/C in 72nd scale was the monogram kit.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there was a Lindbergh kit as well in the 60s as well, but that's worth forgetting about. Then there was the very nice Airfix kit in the late 70s. Then pretty much nothing until the early to mid 90s, when Hasegawa did some in 72nd scale, but they're not very good kits, to be honest with you. They are not accuracy. They're a little bit iffy. And then the Revell 72nd scale kit in the late 90s, and I think there are a couple of what we used to call Eastern European kits. I'm sure people out there will correct me. I'm sure KP may have even done some P51s of some sorts, but no, that's there we go. Yeah, Vincent says
KP.
KP.
There we go. Yeah.
So, and Academy. Yeah, Dave who's reminded me the Academy one is more recent, is best up to now, but even that's nearly 20 years ago now.
I don't think I've ever seen that kit.
I've actually got one out on the display shelf out there, but I only ever got as far as painting it in silver and putting some RAF roundels on it, and then I kind of put it on the shelf for safekeeping, and it's stayed there ever since.
Yeah, I mean, we've had those 72nd scale kits, but when it comes to larger scales, it's just nothing, is it? You know, we had the odd, I think in 32nd scale, I think Revell's is pretty much still almost the only one there, isn't it, in 32nd scale?
I'm trying to think. Did not Trumpeter do one in 32nd scale at B/C? I can't remember. We'll get corrected in the comments one way or the other.
Yeah, please do join in. You know, if you know.
It is a spectacularly poorly served variant, and like you, I know some people out there think that the P51H is the best looking Mustang variant ever. I
hope Drew's not watching this, otherwise we're going to get brickbats for that.
We'll know. Is that you will. Is that we will. Is that the lost me train of thread there now. I think I'm with you. I think the razor-backed Merlin engine Mustangs are the best looking ones.
Yeah, I think so. I think they are. Yeah, there's just something about it. It's trumpeted. Yeah, there you go. But maybe that's why I forgot about it, because it isn't. You know, it's not that great. And yet, it was made in sufficient numbers to warrant kits being made of it. Color schemes were great on it. There were lots of nice schemes for it as well. So I don't quite know. We're certainly we're going to get this one as a 72nd scale kit, and I think people will be really pleased with this. But we definitely need it in a good 32nd scale kit, and we desperately need a good 48 scale kit of it as well.
I don't know. We've got the Tamiya one. We've got the Accurate Miniatures ones. They're filling a gap. It's not like we're kind of all like buying a thirst for a lack of decent, 48 scale Mustangs.
How old is the Tamiya kit's what, 30 years old now?
No, the Tamiya 48 scale Mustang was released in 1996, so that'd be 25 years
25
next
years.
year. 25 years next year / tomorrow, and the Accurate Miniatures ones were around about late 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're Accurate Miniatures. They did the Allison engine ones, and they did the Merlin engine Mustangs as well. You talk about color schemes. The one that sticks in my mind is, I can't remember what the unit is, but it's a U.S. Army Air Force one in, shall we say, natural metal, but with olive drab uppers and invasion stripes, and a Malcolm hood. And it's just like, isn't that just gorgeous? Absolutely gorgeous.
I always like the one that got the white stripes running down the fuselage.
Right.
It's in olive drab, neutral grey, but it's got what, I'm sure it's a B. It's got white. Yeah. It's got white stripes running sort of at an angle down the rear fuselage. That's quite nice too. But I think this is a really. We've said this a lot over this year, haven't we? This is really nice, nice release. But I think this is an important release as well, because it is filling a definite gap in the market.
It's filling a definite gap in the market, but for all those people who are going to go, oh, Pete, not another,
not another Mustang.
That's like doing my Dudley Moore here now. It's like, Pete, not another Mustang kit, and it's like money in the bank.
Yes,
this is money in the bank. This is how Armour will then be able to go out and do something a bit more esoteric.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of it, isn't it? Really, it's the sort of the it's going to make them money, because Armour are making some slightly eclectic kits as well to go with it. This will make them a load of money. It's going to sell thousands, not millions, because kits don't sell millions, but it's going to sell thousands of kits, and people are going to love it. And at the price, I would imagine sub 20 quid, which is what I think the Hurricanes are. Yeah, it's going to be a good release. It'd be interesting to see what color schemes they pick for this, because I think from memory, Armour tend to have quite a, they offer quite a lot in their kits. They tend to offer sort of more than a couple of choices. So interesting to see what they go with there. And I think when we looked at one of their Hurricane kits, didn't we, earlier on in the year, 72nd scale one, there were some really nice color schemes in that, I seem to remember. So be good to see what they come up with. But
we're not finished with Armour, because they have one more new release lined up for 2021, and this one is particularly up my street, or indeed on my flat top, because it is one of my favourite aeroplanes of all time, and it is the Grumman Wildcat / Martlet. But this is the F4 version, so this is the folding wing variant. They've already done the FM1/2, but this is what I tend to think of as the bog standard, Grumman Wildcat folding wing one. I think this is the same variant that Airfix did about 3-4 years ago. But again, this just looks.
Wow.
Yeah, that does look rather. That certainly kind of knocks the kind of the old Revell Frog Academy, you name it. I think it pretty much leaves this in the Airfix kit now as being the front runners for the best Wildcat kits in this scale, because even the Hasegawa kit is, again, a Hasegawa kit from about 20 odd years ago, and they were good enough, but they weren't great. Let's put it that way. This, on the other hand, like the Airfix one, this is really kind of like pulling out the stops and giving you so much more,
And this is sorry, John, I missed it. This is 72nd scale. Yeah. That's an incredible amount of detail to pack into the nose of a 72nd scale Wildcat, because they're not very big aeroplanes. That's going to be quite a small little kit, but that detail's amazing. And certainly from what I can see there, if you were so keen to do, you could open that nose up, open the panels up around that engine, do some work on that. That's lovely, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I know people eulogizing about the FM1, FM2 kits, but I do like these. I do like these kind of like later Mark Wildcats. For me, they're the ones that have got pretty much all the interesting color schemes.
Yeah.
But it like the Hurricane in 48 scale, and to some extent the same with the P51Bs as well. Although they're only announcing these as specific variants at the moment. Sorry, like all of them. There is obviously with these scope for further expansion. So I would not be surprised if somewhere down the line the Armour end up doing a Hurricane 2B or a Hurricane 2C. And I would not be surprised looking at the way, especially again, if you go up on the Armour website and have a look at what are the provisional sprue layouts for this Wildcat, I would not be surprised if they start ringing out other Wildcat variants down the line. I mean, I'm just looking at the sprues here, and you are getting two types of cowl ring, one with the air scoop on it on the top and one without. So clearly they are factoring in other Wildcat / Martlet variants. So yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with an F4, F3 or with a rigid winged one, but no, absolutely. This bit, excuse me, bit of a no-brainer seeing as what they did with the FM1.
Yeah.
They returned to something like this. And I think probably the sales of that have obviously worked for them, that they wanted to come back and do a
You've now looked at the sprue layouts. Does it give you the option to have the wings folded?
No, they've molded the wings on these as rigid.
Right. Okay.
So I think that's somewhere where the Airfix kit perhaps still has a bit of an edge.
Yeah.
They offer both. But they do offer two different types of cowl, although it has to be stressed, this is a provisional sprue layout.
Yeah.
But they do offer two different types of cowl. But much like what we were saying about some of their other kits, is that they look incredibly detailed, but they don't look necessarily massively complex. Which I think is a real strength of their brand. So
yeah,
I like the look of that, and that will most definitely be featuring on my crowded workbench in 2020.
Well, I have to say, 45 years of building models, no, longer than that actually. Yeah, 45. Let's say 45. 45 years of building models. I've never built a Wildcat ever. Not once. And other than the Hellcat that sat behind me, behind there, that's the, as far as I know, that's the only Hellcat I've ever built as well. Never built. So the idea of building this little Wildcat, and I didn't build the Airfix kit either when that was first announced. So I haven't even seen. I don't even think I've held the box. So yeah, I quite like the look of building a Wildcat. They're quite tidy little aeroplane, aren't they? They've got that sort of punchy look, which I think is kind of cool. So yeah,
one of my favorite airplanes. I think it's probably because of years of being down at Yeovilton and looking at the one they've got there. It's just, yeah, I love it. I think it's a terrific airplane. But yeah, that's a good start to 2021 with Armour bounding along there with a whole raft of new releases. And again, all of them, they're good banker subjects.
Yes, yeah. and actually, speaking of 2021 releases, we are due to do a program, a show on the 6th of January.
6th of January.
The 6th of January. Put it in your diary. We're supposed to do a show on the 6th of January, which we will be doing. And what happens, JM, on the 6th of January, 2021?
This has to come down. This here has to come down.
That's not what I was talking about.
Oh, right,
What's happening on the 6th of January 2021 is a certain British model manufacturing company are going to release details of their range that they intend to release throughout 2021 and into 2022.
Long story short, January the 6th is, according to their Facebook page, I just have to double check this now in case I get it wrong.
Yes, please do before we get shot.
A horrible faux pas here, but yeah, that is going to be Airfix are going to announce their 2021 range.
Yes.
And let me just have a quick check to make sure that I have got that right. Yep. Don't forget that the 2021 range launch is announced on the 6th of January 2021 at 9 a.m. So we will, of course, be covering that in our midweek show. Usually we try and keep these things for the Sunday show, but I think something like that is of such direct. There we go. Bing.
So what we will then do is we'll get up on the morning of the 6th of January. Well, you won't, because you already presumably have got an inkling as to what's coming. And if you haven't, why not? So get up. I will get up on the 6th of January. Have a quick look through the list. I'll then contact a certain Jonathan Mark. We will then discuss in detail what's coming, and then go away and write up some sort of nonsensical script that we can bring you information. So we're hoping that will be the release date. In previous years, and I have to say this because it has annoyed me quite a bit, in previous years there has been a drip feeding by certain people who like to be first on the scene to announce these things and get the jump on Airfix. So I hope for Airfix's sake that they've managed to curtail any of that nonsense for this year, because it is extraordinarily annoying.
I would like to point out that you will be writing the script next Wednesday. I, of course, have to remain utterly impartial.
Yes,
but I will say this: it's super awesome. Anyway,
yes, and yeah. So, and I have a sneaking suspicion from a personal point of view as well that it's going to be something that might make me have to try and create some plans that may affect me throughout 2021. So I'm really
you'll have to wait, chummy, because in all honesty, you haven't got a clue.
No, I haven't. I genuinely haven't. I genuinely haven't. And
it is one of those things. There's an old saying here in Somerset, and that is those in the know don't say anything. Those who do know don't say anything. Those who don't talk endlessly on modelling forums.
Yes, indeed. So I would like to make this clear that despite JM and I working very closely together over the last 9 months on this project, and also closely together previously on MAI, that he does not ever release information to me about Airfix future kits. Never. Okay. No. So, but over the years, I have to say that I have been told on many occasions that kits are to be released, and when they're likely to come, from very big manufacturers as well. And I have never once let that slip, ever. And I'll tell you why that is for you, right? A reputation is hard earned. It's incredibly easily lost. I could lose my reputation amongst the kit manufacturers around the world like that, and I'm not prepared to do that. No. So John is the same. I'm the same. So if you think that I'm going to tell you about anything that I've got inside my head, it's not going to happen. Not even when I'm drunk.
Without wishing to sound like we're kind of like, we're the chairman of the Old Fogies Club. I think between the pair of us collectively, we have 60 plus years of experience working in this industry.
Yes,
indeed. And it does teach you a thing or two. And although we can be a little bit flippant like we are tonight, is that no, it's if you are trusted with information, it's a need to know basis. And frankly,
I've even tried bribing you with cake, which is your biggest weakness, and biscuits.
Are you sure that's my biggest weakness? But you will all have to wait until Wednesday. But yeah, that's I'm looking forward to that, because some of that stuff I've been sat on for the best part of about 18 months. So it's like, oh, finally everybody's going to get to see the reaction. So that should be good.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Yes,
and that's just the beginning, because there will be other new announcements. It's going to be interesting this year, because obviously there won't be a traditional toy fair in Germany like there usually is. So it's going to be interesting to see how all the various manufacturers approach their announcements this year.
Yes, and isn't that's kind of fascinating, isn't it? Because the toy fair, I think, has been moved to the summer, if I'm right. The Nuremberg toy fair has been moved back into the summer. So we're going to almost have that sort of traditional 1980s release, aren't we? Where companies release it via media, social media, magazines, all of those kind of things. Because I believe that from talking to Andy that obviously there's going to be, to me, usually announce a cluster of kits at the start, sort of January, end of January. So obviously that'll be coming as well. So there'll be some interesting stuff from them. And then presumably later in the year, they'll do what they did this year and we'll start getting it through. And we won't know until Tamir have got kits that are due to be released, because they are notoriously secretive. And it's very, very rare that anything comes out from them beforehand, and unless modelers find them measuring up twin-engined aircraft in hangars and then decide to blast it all over websites, as they did with the Mosquito. Love them all.
What I love about the way Tamir do things is that how many times how many times down the years have we had it's going to be a 48 scale B-17,
Yes.
definitely, and then suddenly it turns out to be an F-117.
Yes,
People are like,
there is that, isn't there?
People are outraged. Why have they released this? It's like, well, that surely over time, does that not prove that these kind of people who kind of prop up the bar on these kind of like forums and places, they're like, yeah, well,
my mate Phil, he says,
my mate Phil, who heard from his mate Barry, who and it's just like,
I heard that Tamir were going to do a 32nd scale F-105G, and it's going to have like complete interior and everything, and be able to fly, and it'll be 35 quid. That's what I heard off my mate Phil. Yeah. And he said that in the Dog and Duck, and I've got no reason to.
Honestly, this starts getting dangerously into Peter Cook and Dudley Moore territory.
It is my mate Phil. Actually, we'll create that as a character for next year. My mate Phil says. Yeah, no, he doesn't, does he? Anyway, moving on.
Greta Garbo. Sorry.
From future releases and news and all of that sort of stuff, I think we should lighten this up before we get ourselves into the black books of certain people and websites, and move on to a number of other things. And one of them is our favorite project of the year. That's what we should do, because we've built quite a lot this year, haven't we? Reasonable amount. I wish I
had a bit more prep about this, because I could.
No, it's funnier if I make you do this without. Firstly, I believe, and I'm not sure that have we spoken about this. Did we speak about you completing your Semavente? Do you want to just quickly round that up before we move on to?
Well, here we go. I actually have got a bit prepared here. Hey, how about that Verlinden blue background?
Very nice.
Vivid, isn't it? Actually ILM are going to take that background out and kind of put something else in there instead at some stage. Right, I finished the Semavente in the end. A largely enjoyable project, just slightly, just a few places where there were, I don't know how you can word it. I think I likened it to, it's a bit like watching a favourite football team who can play sumptuous football and then let in silly goals. And Liverpool FC.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked about Liverpool over the last 3 weeks.
And this was a largely very enjoyable project, but just silly little things like the fact that there are things in the construction sequence, the finishing diagrams, and the box art which do not match up at all. There's the rather odd thing about the molded jerry can brackets on the side of the hull, which you have to remove and then replace with separate jerry can brackets. I don't understand what was going on there, what's happened there. There are decals included on the sheet that are absolutely not mentioned on the instructions whatsoever. And even the decals don't exactly match the finishing diagrams. There are differences there. Yet you'd think it would be the same people doing both. It's little things like that you just end up scratching your head and thinking this is a kit that should have been excellent, but because of just a kind of a lack of coordination or a lack of attention, it just ended up being good. You see, and I think Italy can be better than that. I think they should aspire to be better than good. I don't like kind of comparing, comparing to other kits and other manufacturers, because that tends to be a little bit invidious. But to draw a comparison, I go back to that the Zvezda Hercules, not Zvezda Hercules on the brain, the Zvezda Sherman that I built prior to this, and that was essentially a curbside kit with no interior detail. They kept it very simple, but what they did brilliantly. They really did it superbly. It felt with this kit that Italy were trying to do too many things at once, and then just not having their eye on what they were trying to manage at every step of the way. And I mean, for example, it gives you an interior, but it's a very rudimentary interior. They give you some figures, but to be honest with you, they're not brilliant figures. They give you rubber band tracks, which are really quite loose. I mean, I should go back and try and tighten them up on this model, but this is just built as is. And it's like they stretched everything so thin that they just ended up not quite applying the kind of level of excellence if they'd have just kept it a bit more simpler. If they'd have done this more purely as a curbside kit with no interior, or if they just not bothered with the figures. Like I say, it is two things sum this kit up in terms of just completely head puzzling. One, as I say, is those molded jerry can brackets. Why you have to remove them and then replace them with separate parts. I don't get that. And the final thing, which I finish this model off, I haven't got the picture here, unfortunately, but they do give you some nice wooden crates and some shells to display with the model, which is great. So I painted those up and everything, and gone to put them on the model, and the shells don't fit the crates. They're too big for the crates, and it's something like that where you sit there and you think, well, what went wrong there, lads?
Firstly,
it's bizarre.
Firstly, I have to say that I really like what you've done with the model. I think it looks really nice now that it's complete. And I know that we've sort of joked about this build, haven't we, over the last sort of few months, that you've sort of become bogged down with it slightly. But following along with this, it looks no different really to the earlier release. From this looks like a 1970s Italeri kit. I mean, the details kind of there, but I agree with you. I mean, those are just some bizarre ideas. The idea that's just bizarre that they don't fit in the boxes. But when you see it and you can see the detail on there are lots of things about this kit to like.
Yeah, absolutely.
The surface detail's really nice from what I can see. I saw that some of the detail that was inside looked nice, but there are odd omissions. Those tracks are too loose. There's no two ways about that. And also, you mentioned about the jerry can brackets on the side of the hull and that you have to replace those. Are they different? Is the detail different? Are they simply the same? Could you get away with it, sort of, if you were to build another one of these? Could you just ignore that and just leave the originals in place?
Yeah, I think you could. And like I say, there's also things where I think the instructions tell you to put 3 on one side on the left side. But then one of the schemes only shows 2 on the finishing diagram, but then it's different to the box art, and there's just things like that where but like I say, you don't like to be too down on a brand new tool kit, because you don't want to be down it, but you have to be honest and you have to be fair. And like I say, is that it's a good kit, and I would say to some extent it's a very good kit. But with just a little bit more concentration, it could have been excellent. Yeah. And that's the difference. That Zvezda Sherman is excellent, but Zvezda kept it very simple and kept absolutely focused on what they needed to do, and they did it well. And I think that's that's the difference. You know, I'm always going to be an Italeri fanboy because they were a big part of my modeling growing up. So, you know, I'm sure they're going to do a Caramata in the new year. I would not be surprised if that is one of the first releases they do, because all the bits, essentially, you know, key bits are there in the box. And to be honest with you, I would look forward to building the Caramata. If, you know, an Italeri tank kit lands on my lap, I'm always happy to build them because, like I say, they are just a big part of my childhood. But it's just frustrating to see something that could have been so much better just, and you know, ending up being a bit of a one-all draw.
See, that was going to be my question. Would you build another? And you've answered that by saying, yeah, I would build the Caramata. So I can see that it wasn't, you know, although it was a difficult birth, it's not going to stop you having any more kids. So I think that's got to be a good thing. But yeah, I'm with you on that. It is. Yeah,
it would be interesting to get hold of the original Italeri Semovente, just because I know this. I've seen sprue shots. They are completely different kits. They are completely different kits. But yeah, it's like I say, you have to be honest, and that is my honest assessment of it. So
yeah,
but you know,
I'd be interested to see what you would think of the Tamiya kit, because I've built one of those, and sort of see how the two things compare. I have a feeling they'd be very similar.
We will have to see. The other thing I'm currently working on is also this 5.5 centimeter flak, which by 1602, we're still trying to work out how we kind of you know, what do we call them? 16th of February.
Yes, we called them 16th of February, didn't we?
Yeah. This is very good, but I've reached the stage now where I've come to realise that some bits of it are very finicky and very fiddly, and it's not a kit for beginners. And I think there are elements of this where you can see it's, shall we say, inexperience, in as much as some of the tolerances for the fitter parts is so fine that you end up having to make adjustments because you know, it's like it's been designed on CAD so that, you know, you've got bits that, like those hooks that slot into the base there. You know, it's things like that obviously in the CAD they fit, but when you actually get around to the molded plastic, you would kind of design in a bit more of a tolerance to allow these bits and pieces to fit in properly. You see what I mean? And it's, like I say, it's very good, but it is not a kit for beginners, and it certainly requires a certain amount of dexterity and a certain amount of experience just to deal with what are at times, you know, now I've got all the big bits out of the way. I am down to some of the really small, tiny details, and they are, honestly, you need very, very good tweezers to be working on these bits now. I've already had one part this afternoon. I wouldn't say it's got into orbit, but I'm looking forward to seeing it on the sky at night at some stage. And I'm going to have to make another bit. So it's, yeah, exactly.
It's a cool looking thing though, isn't it? It'll be worth it because it's a cool looking gun. I
have to say my initial impression that this looks like this will be like a, you know, a really quick project. Relatively speaking, it is. But now that I've got down to the finer details, it has slowed it down considerably. But again, there's nothing wrong with the kit. It's just these are small bits that require quite a bit of care to align and to glue in place. And in many instances, you are not going to be aware that there is a fit problem until you actually get around to gluing them, because some of the bits, they're a bit catch-22. This bit has to go in place so that this bit can go into place, so that this bit can go into place. And you can't dry assemble things like that. So you just have to go, right, let's glue this bit on. And then when you do it, you suddenly think, oh no, hang about. The first bit I've glued on actually needs considerable adjustment to get it to sit properly. So you have to kind of like pull apart stringy bits of plastic. You know, it's a first injection molded kit from a company. So there are always going to be things like that. But I am enjoying it, and it is a very good project. It's a, you know, it is a very good kit. but
Yeah.
you've got to have your eye. You got to have your A game to build it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, similar problems arose with the Airfix Hellcat, the 24 scale one. The tolerance for some of the parts was so fine. It was way too well engineered. I wrote this in my review. It was almost too good, so that when you were putting parts together, you put paint on them, they just didn't line up. So Kitty Hawk Jag suffer from CAD tolerances. Yeah, notoriously difficult kits to put together. Have we got any other messages? We've got to catch up with some of the people who are watching and say hello.
Well, let's say a big hello to everybody who's watching this evening. So let's say hello to Ian Rusco. Let's say hello to Peter Marshall, M. Paul Lloyd, Andy Brennan, Yoav Efrati. Shouldn't have had that sherry. Sorry, Yoav. John Patrick Huston, Stan Kurtz. Again, apologies if I'm mangling names. Mike Reeves, Dave Fleming, my mate Dave Fleming. Russ Groundstrom, Chris Alien, I mangle that one as well. Jason David Bettis, Ian Goldstraw, Dave Coward, Greg Woodbridge, Anthony Bird, Paul Milligan. It's the guys from Jadland Racing. Hello, guys from Jadland Racing. Tony Bork, Dave Swindle, Benjamin de Groot, Ian Hartup. Good Lord, it's like a who's who here. Vincent Murphy, Steve Moores, Johan Oliver. It's just like the credits for a Star Wars film here. Ivan Jensen Taylor, Rob Herring. We're getting towards the end here. Assistant visual effects designer. Blah 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 blah. Jerry Doyle. Jerry says he's got to go. So happy New Year to you, Jerry.
Jerry, don't drink too much. We know what you're like when you've had a few beers.
Heart model. So yeah, we have Guido Hopp. Hello, Guido from Switzerland. So we have a pretty full house here tonight. It's
excellent. Good.
Excellent. So we'll so 20. Right, we've reached our cut-off point of the hour mark. So we're probably going to shamble on for about another half hour now. So favorite projects of 2020, and we've both built a lot of things this year. Probably, I'd actually say this has probably been one of our most productive years ever.
Mm-hmm.
What was your top 5 favorite projects of 2020?
Top 5.
Top 5.
Okay. Top 5. I have to begin, I think, where the whole thing began.
To begin?
Really. I mean, I'd done a couple of aircraft, one of which I'm going to come to in my favorite kit of the year. So I'll come to that in a minute. But I'm going to start off with the Tamiya Hanamag, because that's really where everything started this year. Once I'd done a couple of aircraft at the beginning of the year, but I remember buying that kit and sending you a message with an emoticon that was just me laughing, and you sending me an extremely blue reply, which would take us well over the 15.
That's yes.
I think, and you may remember that. And I said, "Look, got this kit," and we sort of talked about it, haven't we? Said, about buying a Hanamag and doing all of those. So I'm going to start with that. I think the Hanamag started everything off, and was the bedrock for the Legacy collection as it developed throughout lockdown. Following, I think I bought that in early doors of the year, and I had it up in the loft, and we started off with that, didn't we? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give that. That's going to be my starting point. I also really enjoyed the Sherman, the M4A3 that I built, the Tamiya kit, and the reason for that was that I'd wanted to build that kit for a long time. I built one when I was a kid, and I didn't really like it that much, but I hadn't really built an M4A3, and it's kind of the classic Tamiya Sherman. It's a simple kit. It's got very few parts, goes together nice and easy. It's not the most detailed Sherman in the world, but when it's finished, it looks great. And so I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed building a kit that I'd wanted to do for a while. Third place, I'm going to give to the Honda S600 that I built for the garage diorama. And I think probably it all encompasses in that. And part of the reason for that was that I don't build a lot of cars. In fact, I can count on the fingers of of probably two hands the number of 24 scale cars I've ever built over the years, because it's just not something that crosses my radar. But I've always looked at car models and enjoyed them, and I liked the idea of creating something from that. You may recall that I was originally going to build the Mini, the 24 scale to me a Mini, but for reasons that we explained at the time, that didn't happen. But I loved it. It was much like your Vespa that you've often talked about. It was something that was out of left field, and it gave me the chance to build something that was a little bit different. So that's the third place. The fourth place I'm going to give to the 12 scale Roadstar, which is behind me, the motorbike, which I did as originally it was going to be built from the box, but I built it as a kind of as a almost like a sort of a futuristic post-apocalyptic bike with parts missing and all of that sort of stuff. So it was essentially a really, you may recall this if I just grab it and I can show you the model. So I'll put my buds back in. So this is the model here. You may remember this Yamaha Roadstar. So this is the build, and the kit itself is designed so that you can basically glue it all together, and all the parts are in the right colours. And I think we discussed this with the hobby company, and then I decided to do something different with it. It's supposed to be part of a diorama, and it still will be part of a diorama. But I really loved the idea of taking a kit and making it something different, a bit like Jamie Hago did with his Bronco. Which we heard just before Christmas that had been broken. So I know how upset Jamie is about that. So he has our deepest sympathies. When you break something that you really love, it's a shocker. It was something completely different, and I really kind of loved doing that. And fifth, and finally, I'm going to go with. What am I going to go? I think I'm going to go with the Tornado. That became such a big part of the year for me, and such a sort of a big project. It was almost a sort of an experiment, really, to see whether or not I could build a model and I could create the book alongside it in real time and see how that works. But also it gave us the opportunity at the Interesting Modeling Company as well, because we were given this as a project that we could sort of work on and discuss that, and it became the centerpiece, or one of the centerpieces for our weekend, for our modeling weekend, which I think was almost intermeshed into all of that. That became such a big thing, didn't it, for us over on this channel as well. So I'm going to go with that. But none of those things that I've mentioned, none of those 5 projects were my favorite kit. There was one more that I will do after you've discussed your project for this year.
Well, I'm trying to fathom it out, because I built so many things this year. Like I say, massively productive year. I think it ended up being something about 21, 22 models, which, if you kind of do the maths, that's almost like one every 2 weeks. I would say my favorite, I'm just going to sound like Ronnie Corbett now. Yeah, my favorite, my producer here. Yes. We
got taken off the air, you know that, don't you, if we carry on with these awful
impressions.
voices.
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite probably actually was the Tamiya T34, because that was a kit I wanted to build since forever, and I'd visualized the finish before I'd visualized the finish. Although rather oddly, I always imagined that Verlinden's one was actually in a winter whitewash. It isn't. The one in the Tamiya catalog is actually in just standard kind of Russian 4BO green. But that was I think that might have been one of the first challenges we did, and I could see the finish on that, and from start to finish, it kind of it ticked the boxes on everything I wanted to achieve with that model. Even though it was built straight from the box and only had like a couple of, spares box additions, that was the whole point of doing it. Was not to throw expensive aftermarket out. It was just build it, bang it out the park. That's it. So and just being able to do that winter whitewash finish and have the mud on it and everything. It's just every technique I like throwing at a model was on that one. Hide it with mud. Copyright me.
Yes, became a bit of a catchphrase.
Although that may actually be supplemented in 2021 by hide it with weld beads. But
is that a new one?
It's a new one. Yeah, there's a few things on that 55 mil flak rather, where some bits have left me looking and thinking, I don't quite like how that looks. What can I do? And it's like, get the epoxy putty out. Let's do an Uncle Night shift and create some weld beads, and that will.
Before you move on, your memory wasn't playing tricks on you. You did the smaller turreted T-34, didn't you?
Mm. No, that's not the one. That's not.
Is that not the version that you did?
The one, the model that I have in mind was actually in a Tamiya catalogue.
In one of the earlier catalogues, but he did do one in winter. He did do one in winter white.
Yeah, but the one that inspired me, because it had that figure, leaning on the turret like that. That was in a Tamiya catalogue. I'll put it up after the show.
Yes.
Beyond that, oh blimey, I'm just trying to think of other. I've actually had to call up some pictures here to remind myself of things I built in 2020. How
your memory goes.
I know. I did build an Eschi Harrier GR1, which was reissued by Italeri, and it was nice to actually get around and building one of those because I'd never built one before. One of the few Harrier models I've not built. Still very good for its age. I think the molds have started to wear a little bit, but it went together very nicely, and yeah, I think it's. It was built for a client. It was done in a very shiny, factory fresh scheme, but I enjoyed that one. I really did enjoy that one, and that was followed almost immediately by the new Italeri F-35 Lightning, or Lightning 2, whatever you want to call it. Lightning 2, Lightning 3,
Lightning 2.
Lightning 2, which I actually think was a fabulous kit. I think it was superbly detailed, fit together brilliantly, some really nice little detail touches in it. The only thing that let that kit down was the RAM panels. They're just too exaggerated. Beyond that, when you actually see the model on the underside with all the weapons bay open and all the doors open and the engine doors open and everything, it's a fabulous looking subject. It actually made an F-35 fan out of me, and I thought it was a very, very good kit. Like I say, just the RAM detail. They'd have not bothered with that or engraved it or done it any other way other than as these great big raised plates. But as a modelling experience, I enjoyed that from start to finish. That was really, really a fun project. Beyond that, I'm just racking my brains here.
Did you not build a tractor that you would?
I built two tractors this year. No, I actually built a bulldozer. I did build that Heller Ferguson tractor, which was built for a friend of the family, Mr. Hector Hamer, who is not very well at the moment, unfortunately. He's been in hospital for a few weeks, so it's. I can't even pop round and see him at the moment because I'm obviously have the COVID thing or whatever. So that's a slightly depressing way to end 2020. But he was very delighted to get it as a birthday present, and that was a fun project. That was I'd almost put that equal with the T-34 because it was so left field. It was just and there are a lot of things I did with that, like the rust weathering. And being able to use plus model autumn leaves on the seat to have it as like a semi kind of wreck. That and I gave you the spare kit. You
did, yes. Which I'm looking forward to building. Actually,
it's a very good kit, except for how Heller did the adjustable front end of it, which they completely blew it for some reason. They just anyway, very good kit. Beyond that, two more. Blimey, I can't include the Volkswagen Beetle because I started that years ago. Probably, actually, it's the Italeri Sturmtiger in 35th scale, because actually, that's a slightly older kit, but to almost prove a point, it's pretty much a curbside model, but it goes together very well, and it looks, there's some nice textures on it. The one I built, thankfully, wasn't a Zimmer-rated vehicle, but when it was all painted up and weathered and everything, it really looks the part. It looks like a, really good model. So I enjoyed that one, and I think the other one, having given Italeri a bit of a pummeling tonight for that Vente, I think the other one was actually the vintage well, I was going to say the Land Rover, Pink Panther Land Rover. I actually enjoyed the ambulance Jeep slightly more, because it was just the Italeri Jeep kit, which is coming up to about 35 years now. Still a brilliant kit, still a fabulous model. Yes. So, but to be honest with you, honourable mentions go to the Tamiya Panzer II, which I think is the perfect armour kit to cut your teeth on. Yeah. The original one. Italeri Opel Blitz radio wagon, because I finally got around to building an Italeri Opel Blitz. The Tamiya 48 scale Panther, is it a D or a G? I can't remember.
D.
Just sublime, absolutely sublime. The Tamiya Panzer 38, fabulous little model. The Zvezda Sherman, I could pretty much everything I built this year was a highlight. Like I say, it's been a very productive year, but to be honest with you, I think part of the reason it's been a productive year is I get in that workshop and it's like, unless it's football, the real world shut out completely.
And I think I probably know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. So what was your kit of the year what would you have as your number one kit from this year?
There are two, neither of which I've actually sat down to start building at the moment. But I would say, in terms of sitting there, and every time I open the box, I kind of have a slight giggle. It will be that Mini Art German industrial tractor.
Yes. Oh, yes, of course you've got one of those now.
Yeah. Second, followed very closely second by the Eduard crop duster, the Z37 crop duster. I just think they were fabulously left field choices, but that Mini Art tractor it's just hilarious. It's just, honestly, I open the box, I smile.
Yeah,
it's so off the wall, but again, it's one of those kits where I can visualize the finish. I want to get on it. We got some one here. Damien Mullen says the Zerki Mora F4E for him was his kit of the year. And Ian Rusco says, I like the SAS Pink Panther that you guys built as one of your challenges. Great builds. Thank you very much. I did actually get a Tamiya Pink Panther for Christmas as well. So, and what was your kit of the year, Mr. P?
Well, my kit of the year, and I built it, so I'm going to go with one I actually built, was the Academy 72nd scale F14A Tomcat.
Understandable.
And you've seen my build. I brought it down. That is in 72nd scale for Tomcat fans what Tamiya's 48 scale kit is for 48 scale fans. Yeah. It is a sensational kit from start to finish. It is truly a work of art. And when it was first announced, and I thought, oh, okay, we're going to get an Academy kit and all of that, I wasn't really sure what to expect from it. But it was obvious that Academy had at least taken a look at the Tamiya kit, because there were an awful lot of ideas in there that they'd seen from the way that Tamiya approached it. I'm not suggesting they'd copied it, because they hadn't, but there were nods to the Tamiya kit. Yeah. And what that resulted in was a kit that was not only incredibly easy to build, but it offered amazing detail. The surface detail on it is up there amongst the very best I've ever seen in the 72nd scale kit. It clicks together like you wouldn't believe. The detail in the cockpit with undercarriage bays, all of those kind of things is sensational. And it looks every inch a Tomcat once it's finished. And if I only ever built one Tomcat kit and it was that one, I would be really pleased with it. The fact that I've built 3 of the Tamir kits and now I built one of these Academy kits, they sit alongside each other so well. In fact, I photographed them together to give an idea of what they're like. I think that that's probably the best 72nd scale kit I've ever put together, that Tomcat. It looks amazing. The detail's amazing. It's in a year of some really beautiful releases, and there've been some great kits this year. Sort of not least of all from Tamir, who've produced some really nice kits. The Marder 1, for instance, has come out this year, which was really great. But I have to say that Tomcat was my kit of the year, and in much the same way that when Tamir's Tomcat came out 3 years ago, that was kit of the year for me. This is going to be the one.
And of course, in 2021, you provisionally have penciled in the Holy Grail.
I have, yes.
Trinity.
I have. I will be building, and in fact, I spoke to Tony Burke, who's I think might still be watching this. I spoke to him about it earlier on. I will be building Tamir's 32nd scale Tomcat within the next couple of months. That's going to be one of my first builds of 2021. So that will complete the set of kits. And also, Drew gave me some of the Fujimi 72nd scale Tomcats, which are really nice. And all of this will be used in a new Tomcat book that's going to come out in 2021 as well. So,
just going to say, we've not been short-served by we've not been short-served of excellent 72nd scale Tomcat kits in recent times, because we've had the prior to the Academy kit, we had the fine molds ones.
Yes, indeed.
Such as you can find them. Didn't Great Wall do one as well, or am I mistaken?
Don't think so.
No, okay.
Certainly, fine molds did. I've never seen that kit, so I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree with you, and it's Academy they nailed it with that kit.
They did. They absolutely.
You talk about a company bringing their A game.
Yes,
that was their A game.
They literally smashed it out of the park. Yeah. It was such a wonderful kit to work on, and I would happily build another. And if at some point they produce an earlier version, or I get the chance to build one of those, at the risk of treading on Drew's toes, I'd almost like to do it in VF1 markings, because it kind of looks cool in that. And but yes, it was beautiful, and I have to thank Andy Hills of Antics as well, because it was Andy that got me the kit, sent me the kit. That's where I got it from. So thanks very much to Andy Hills and Antics for the sample, and we did, and that was our reason, wasn't it, for going down to Antics when we were in Bristol in, when was that, February, March time?
February.
Yes, when we went down there, didn't we? And we had a little wander around Bristol.
February 2020 PC, I call it.
PC, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, so that sort of rounds our year up. However, we have decided between us, because we're horribly tardy, and it's getting embarrassing now, to be fair, that we are about to announce our next challenge, which will begin on a date that I'm sure that we've agreed. I don't know.
Yeah, 6th of January.
The when?
6th of January.
The 6th of January, so next week, and it is.
Well, as you know, we've got about 1,000,001 challenges lined up, but this one has just thrown itself forward for one reason or another, and it is. Now, it has to be pointed out, this is not Tamir's relatively recent, state-of-the-art, super accurate, all singing, all dancing Panther. This, if Airfix are known for Spitfires, if you say that if you want to be generic and refer to a kit as an Airfix Spitfire, there is nothing more Tamiya-like in terms of armor kits than a Tamiya Panther. This, I think you'll find this is their best-selling armor kit of all time, isn't it?
It is.
You see, it is not their most accurate armor kit of all time.
It is not.
It's fairly all over the place, but he has his approach. I have my approach, and it's essentially is with a very limited budget and a limited time frame and a little bit of imagination. What can we do to make people look at this kit and go, really?
So the plan is, for those who've not followed these challenges, and most of you have now, but those of you not followed these challenges, this challenge will start next Wednesday. At the end of the Wednesday show, we will both cut apart off the sprues, and we will start 10 days from that date, from the Wednesday, which I guess would mean the weekend after. 10 days afterwards, the model has to be finished, and we then reveal it, and then we put some photographs up and discuss the project. Now, the challenge is that we build the model from the box, not allowed to add anything to it in terms of aftermarket. However, we can add things to it using modeling materials we've got lying around, plastic card strip, rod, and all of that kind of stuff. We can do whatever we want there, but we can't actually add anything in terms of aftermarket parts. However, are we going to do what we did last time with a set?
Choose an accessory set and say you can only use bits and pieces, or we can just say, right, we can choose an accessory set of our own individual choosing, not use the same one. We'll do it. So, say for example, it's like you say, okay, then look, the only additional thing to the kit that technically you go out and buy, is a set of Tamiya jerry cans, or an Italy field tool kit, or just something like that. So it is one set that you go in and you take things off to jazz the model up a bit more. But what it isn't about is going, oh well, I'll replace the tracks with free model tracks. I'm going to use an Aber gun barrel. I'm going to use photo etch. It's not that. It is very much budget focused.
Yeah.
So one kit, one accessory set, one budget accessory set, and that's it.
Can we use for this one? Are we allowed to use figures? Can we use a figure set instead of an accessory set?
You can use whatever you want.
Okay.
But it's got to be just one set.
Yeah. Good. Okay, that's fine. So those are the ground rules for this thing. John's right. This is not a great kit. It's not a great replica. It's a nice package of kit, if you like.
But I would argue it's a great kit for the simple reason
not a good replica.
People I've seen this year who have said, I've not built a model in ages, and I've built a Tamiya Panther. And they've built this kit and they've enjoyed it. They've enjoyed reacquainting themselves with the whole process of sitting down and building and gluing and painting and decaling a model. You see?
Yes.
And you do get people who jump on top of it and say, oh, well, you shouldn't have bothered with that. You should have gone out and bought, missing the point completely, right?
Yeah.
You have to separate this thing about kits and replicas, because you can have things out there that are great kits that are not great replicas. You can have kits out that are great replicas, but they're not great kits.
Yes, indeed.
This is a great kit, but it's a terrible replica. So,
and from a personal point of view as well, and this is one of the reasons which we'll discuss in 2 weeks' time, why this has been brought forward slightly, is this completes my set. This is the final kit of Tamiya's top 5 best sellers, and so alongside the flak, the 88mm, the Chieftain, the Panzer II, the Hanomag, this one is the best seller. So those 5 are their top 5. So it completes the set. Wow, looking forward to that Panther real modeling challenge. Basically, yes, yeah, indeed. Throws back to the old builder. Yes. Well, yes. I mean, you can add grills to this model should you choose, as long as you've got some mesh. You can't add sort of kit parts. To me, Panther sent good choice, guys. Built it years ago. Started this hobby and loved it. Got me to German Army as a modeling staple. Yes, it's going to be fun, I think. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to approach this yet. I have some ideas. Shep
I
Haynes.
I have loads of ideas.
Yeah, I have some ideas for this. So that'll be kind of cool. 10 days is kind of a compressed time frame, as we found out, but it'll be fun.
It is a. I'm going to give the game away here, but it is.
That's it, indeed. Underhull.
So,
and then once we've done this, John and I have got two other challenges currently marked up. One is the Walker Bulldog, which we mentioned last year, and the other one is the ship kit.
HMS Rodney and HMS Nelson.
I have Rodney to build. You have Nelson. So we've got those. But I think we're going to add another one in, and we may as well sort of semi-announce it now, and that is the Bren Carrier. I think we're going to add that into that.
For goodness sake, I wasn't going to do that as a challenge.
Yes, well, you have to, because I mentioned the Bren Carrier last year, earlier on this year, and you agreed, and now I'm forcing you to do it.
Really?
Yeah, Bren Carrier. So that'd be kind of fun as well, because that opens up all sorts of possibilities for different colour schemes, indeed. And in one of those kits, I believe there are two sets of figures which allow you to do either a desert one or a Northwest European one. So
actually, in both sets there are two sets of figures, or there are additional figures. But yeah, there are. Yeah, I've been looking at those.
Yeah, there's some little chaps with shorts on that you might find interesting to use.
The smiley set, I think, is the best way of describing it. I think it was the most recent.
Yes, those smiley blokes,
happy British soldiers.
They look far too happy. Bearing in mind they got Rommel shooting at their heads. So that, I think, John, wraps up that, doesn't it? Wraps up the show, so we can all go off and drink sherry and listen to fireworks for the
bear with me a second. I'm just going to go and get something a second, so please bear with me.
I have no idea what this is.
How much is old?
Probably another present that he's gone to get. Another, I don't know, kit or all that sort of stuff. Anyway, for everybody that's joined us, thanks very much for tuning in tonight. We sort of decided to do this sort of ad hoc at the last minute. Weren't really sure whether or not this was going to be a good idea, but hopefully it's just sort of added a little, cheered everybody up a little bit, because we really weren't sure as to whether or not anybody would sort of tune in. But let's face it, nobody's going out. So
that's captive audience.
Yeah, we've sort of got you by the throat.
Pretty much push this straight through to midnight and still have most.
But what we'd have then, we'd have an awful lot of drunken viewers and an awful lot more blue comments coming through. So thanks very much for joining us for the last sort of hour and a half. I hope you've enjoyed.
I just want to read this to you. I hope Steve won't mind me reading this. This is from my friend Steve Johnson in America. Steve, every year, always sends me a wonderful box of Christmas goodies, and I try and send him likewise. This year, on top of a fabulous book on Ghosts of Virginia, and also a very rare Apollo 11 beer and shot glass, which is a fantastic gift.
Cool.
Also, a great big thing of American candy. Look at that. Look.
Not good for you. I'm going to save you from yourself, and you can send them to me.
You can see how I've been rationing myself. Right?
Yes, I can.
Steve did write. He did write this, and I'm going to read this out. I'm apologise to Steve about this, but I'm going to read this out because I think this is fabulous, and I think it kind of it speaks to all of us in many respects. He says, once again, I would like to thank you. Everybody for the videos that you post. They have provided some much needed relief, especially this year. They all proved to be quite interesting. Only quite interesting though. Just to be quite interesting and entertaining.
I think we'll take that.
We'll take that. And hats off to you all on the professional production quality. We'll take that. I must say, it really adds to the experience. The one video that stands out the most for me, though, was the 3-day Festival of Modelling. That had to be one of the most interesting things that I have had the pleasure to watch online. And I admit that I have gone back and watched some of the parts more than once. The effort that everyone put into that was amazing and greatly appreciated. While I've never attended Scale Model World, I had the feeling that I was actually taking part in it. it wasn't just the modelling demonstrations, but the connecting scenes, the camaraderie, I always stumble on that word, and the banter, especially between you, Spencer, Drew, and Jen, that gave it a personal touch and really brought the whole experience to life. Allowing us all a glimpse into that part of the event is what really made the whole thing special. At least for me, it did.
Oh,
Thanks, Steve.
Nice.
You know, on top of the fact that we had so many nice comments, you know, and people are very gracious enough to watch this nonsense. I think, especially this year, because of the the situation we are all in, and we said this before, we are conscious of the fact that people are pretty much going to be shut up. Some people are going to be feeling horribly isolated by all this, and this is why we do this nonsense. It's just that even if you're just sat there and you're getting on with some modelling and you're not watching what we're saying, frankly, we don't. This is what we're doing. This is why I've been doing the pop-up lives. The pop-up lives aren't meant to be kind of like an actual kind of like information heavy demonstration thing. They're literally just a soundtrack for you to get on with something else and just have somebody whittering along in the background. And this is primarily why we started doing this in the first place. It's just, we do inhabit a very solitary hobby, but at this particular moment in world history, more than any other time, it's just, there is a community out there, and we would like to, just try to make sure people feel part of a community.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is it, really. We come on twice a week. We have a Wednesday claptrap, don't we? And it's just a load of nonsense. And then Sunday we try and be a bit more organised. We're sort of like we up our game by a minimum 5%. Maximum 7% on a Sunday. Listen, we're not pretending to be anything other than idiots, and often that's how we come across. Yes, we aspire to idiocy, and we just hope you enjoy it, really. So and with that, I think we're both going to go. I'm going to go and get something to eat and have a beer and spend some time with my lovely wife. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks very much for tuning in on New Year's Eve. We hope that you have a pleasant evening, and it's really crap out there at the moment, so please stay safe, be sensible, keep everything under wraps as much as you can, and then hopefully this time next year everything will be relatively back to normal, and we can sort of see each other once more and be able to go out. So please take care of yourselves, have a nice evening, and we will see you on the other side. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. From everybody involved with the Interesting Modelling Company, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you all in 2021. So on that note, stay safe, stay out of trouble, and a Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.